Now, I never met her in person. This is my first time meeting her in person. But I see her all over. And I hear about you from everybody. And I couldn't wait to be able to sit down with you and have a conversation. So you guys, this is a seven-figure real estate woman. When they played that song, Superwoman, I said, oh, that's her. That's her. I want everybody to stand up and welcome our guest speaker for today, is Felicia Duncan. So you guys, we have a fireside chat here, and you guys are very intimate, okay? We're gonna have some questions. We have you guys at the end ask them as well. But Felicia, once again, I am honored to be sitting here with you. Okay?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So can we just start off by you sharing your journey of your pursuit of real estate and why this career? Why did you choose this career?
Sure. So before I go there, I just want to express the fact that I'm extremely honored to be in this space. I don't take it for granted at all, and I just really praise God for being kind, for extending the invitation. I do believe that I'm a church girl, so I love Jesus, but I cuss a little. I know y'all in here. But I do believe that, I have something to share. I do believe that the journey itself is nothing of my own doing. And so to be in this space and to just talk about what God has done for me, I'm grateful to be here. So my real estate journey, I didn't wake up wanting to be a realtor. I did what I thought I should do as a girl from East Oakland, right? So I grew up in East Oakland, born and raised, and I knew that I didn't want what I sort of saw in the streets. So I grew up in a crack epidemic, so people around me were sort of just going through hard times, my family included, and I knew that for me, I wanted something a little different. I didn't know what that was, and so initially I just went to school, right? Like I thought that you would graduate from high school, you would go to college, you would get a higher degree, and then from there you have all your problems solved. And it didn't work like that. I went to school, I got an AA, I went to community college, and I got a BA, then I got a master's degree in finance. And from there, I got a job, and it didn't work. It was like I hated it. I hated going to work every day. Don't tell me what to do, so when I'm late. Like that was me, right? And I knew that wasn't gonna last long. Like these people was like, girl, right? And so I worked my job as a grant writer for the University of California for 14 years. And in the midst of that, I had a daughter who had a whole life that was expensive. Like it was like, private school, extracurricular, and shoes, and now she wanted her hair done and all this stuff, and that job wasn't taken care of. So my uncle had a girlfriend who was a realtor. She was fly. She had a Mercedes, and she had a nice house and all the things. And I was just like, what does she do? And began to talk to her. And my daughter, while she was in school, I was the parent who would outsell everybody with that little candy and stuff. We would kill it every year. She, win the prizes and all that stuff. And I was dating a guy at the time who said, you're a natural salesperson. You should sell bigger ticket items. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna sell cars. That's what I thought. I was like, I like fancy cars, right? So I go to a luxury car dealership, and I'm trying to get a job with them because I'm thinking I could do that on the weekend. And they say you have to be there all day. And I was like, that's what I do for these people at UC. Like, I don't want to come here and be here all day. So I was like, I need to do something else. And then my friend said, if you get a real estate license, I'll pay for it. Done, right? Like done. So I studied for my test and passed I didn't even pass the test the first time. I was one of them. I don't know. I'm always amazed at people like, oh, I passed the first time. I'm like, I did not. And so the second time when I took the test, I was like, okay, if I'm going to study and do all this, let me pass. And so I passed the test, and within 3 months, I had like 4 deals, and they were closed. And I was making money like, I'm like a $9,000 check in one check? Like, this is $99. I'm like, you get one check for $9,000 and they don't take no taxes out? What? I'm saying, right? So for me, I realized I was very aware of what moved the needle in my life. Like, and money was the motivator in the moment. It's not now, but it was then. Because I knew that if I had the money to do what I needed to do, I could take care of my child in a way that I wanted to take care of. And so it was like, okay, I did 4 deals, and I'm new, and I don't even know what I'm doing. I really don't. I'm just like, you want to sell your house? All right, I can help you. And then I call my friend Pam and be like, they want to sell their house. What should we do? She'd be like, did they sign the paperwork? And I'd be like, no, let me go. I gotta go get the paperwork and take it back to the people. I'm like, oh, I forgot to get y'all to sign the paperwork. I was like, oh, I was wondering how we were going to sell our house. And so that's sort of how it started for me. And then I began to connect with the people in a way where I saw a void, where I felt like people are in situations that they really don't have to be, because my clients were distressed. So they were having a sale because of probate, right? Or because they fight with grandma left the house and auntie thinks she got it with the cousins and already, bamboozled her or whatever. And so I was like, we got a problem, like within our community, of how we see real estate and how we actually handle it and how we preserve it, right? How we protect our assets. I didn't come from a family of homeowners. My dad owned a house, but he lived like a whole separate life from us. And my mom lived on 14th and Market in the projects in West Oakland. So it was like, well, I mean, I feel different when I go to my daddy's house, because it doesn't feel like we don't hear the neighbors, and it's not, that. But at the same time, I wasn't like really raised to connect like home ownership and what that meant. And so as I began to see around me the need for someone to take a stand for righteousness and just do the right thing by our people, I was like, okay, I can do that. Like, I can be a champion for that one. So that's how it's
Awesome. Let me ask you, what were some of the challenges that you faced in your career? How do you overcome those challenges?
People looking like me not wanting to do business with me, right? So here I am like, hey, y'all, and they're like, I mean, and no offense to nobody in this room, but most of my black friends and family, they thought white was right, right? So when I came, it was like, like, you want to say, I can help you. Like, we're in a situation. I'm like, I can help. I'm a realtor. They like, And then next thing you know, you see somebody else. So I got my own cousin. My cousin, we 6 months apart. He's like my cousin. And he was like, yeah, my girl's friend from her job who just got her like, I said the N-word all day, like for real. And this was my family. He didn't even believe in it. So that was like the biggest obstacle for me. It was like, my family couldn't embrace that. You know what I mean? They didn't believe it yet. They didn't believe it. So that was
how did you overcome that?
Start selling real estate. I was killed. I was like, this is what I do. So and they started to see the fruits of the labor, right? So it's like, my dad, he was like, I saw your sign on this street and this street.
Wow.
I saw, I talked to this person and that person. They told me you helped them buy a house. And so, and I've been selling real estate before social media, which means that I didn't have that advantage. I didn't have that platform. I'm not going to call it an advantage. I didn't have that platform. So I was selling real estate before social media. So it was a mailing game, sending postcards. My tagline is Felicia Duncan has done it again. And so I'm sending these postcards over and over and over. And they're like, oh, I got another one. It was a different house. I got another one. It was a different house. So then they began to believe, right? Like, so at first they were like, Now they're like, oh yeah, can I ask you a question? It sort of got to that. So it was just me sort of doing the work.
Felicia Duncan has done it again. What are some of the key strategies that you use to be able to boost your income?
To boost my income, real estate is a numbers game. And I know that I need to make $83,303,000 a month to make $1 million. I don't care how I'm making it. Some months it may be less, and some months it may be more. And so when I began to understand what that looks like for me, it just sort of helps me put things into place around what I'm doing this month. I may not be able to go certain places at certain times because I'm behind, my numbers are behind. And so for me, I look at those numbers, like what does the numbers look like and how many houses and how many areas, and I don't restrict myself to geographical locations. Initially, when I became a realtor, that was the thing, people had a farm. I still market to certain areas because I've had such a history there. But I will go to the moon and sell a house if my license will allow me, you know what I mean? I don't care. People be like, oh, I live in San Jose. I'm like, okay. Like the sign, people can get out there. You know what I mean? I don't restrict myself to that. So I just really look at like, okay, what do the numbers look like? What does it mean for my production? And what do I have to do? I stay on the phone. I stay on the phone. Hey, how's the baby? You know, what's going on with the house? You guys good? You need anything from me? You know anybody who needs something? Call me. You want to go eat? You want to go for a walk? You want to have coffee? So I constantly am moving that needle because my business, I've been extremely blessed to have 85% of my business be referrals. So my business, you know, I have a presence on social media, primarily because I pay somebody to do that. Like she posts all that stuff. But for the most part, my business is coming from people who I know or people who know me, who I've built a rapport with and who I've maintained a rapport with. And I'm really intentional about what that looks like, meaning I'll come to your baby shower. And not because I want to be seen and pass out cards or anything, because I really want to be at your baby shower. Like I really feel like the rapport that way. And people appreciate when people come from a genuine place opposed to a, hi, I'm Felicia and I sell real estate. So irritating. Like, girl, get out of here. Like, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? And so when I come into a space, this is just me. You know what I mean? This is just me. How you doing? What you want? You need help? You want to put some platters out? You can get something out of the trunk? You want to pick up some ice before I get there? Like, that's just me to my core. And I think that people appreciate when people show up for them that way because life is really hard. And if you are Black, it's harder. And people are not going to say that. You know what I mean? People are not going to say that. But the reality is, if I can show up for you in a way that can add to where you are, if I'm adding and multiplying and not subtracting and dividing, we're winning, right? Like we're winning. And so that's how let's stop with that.
And so what I hear from you is the importance of relationships.
Absolutely.
How important has networking been to your success?
So I'm a little bit of an introvert in that I like being at home, and so when I gotta like get dressed and be like, oh, they having something, I'm like, I'm sorry, somebody pick me up, like all of those things. And so my networking, I'm a part of a couple of social groups, which is how I've been able to sort of, build my network there, and I have been for a while. And I just use those as sort of my space, you know what I mean? It's sort of my space. But I do stuff within the community. I mean, I am a part of organizations that, give throughout the year. I give back to my high school. I actually tutor at my high school. Like I do, work within the community that I feel is impactful, but that I also feel is genuine. it's not always for, the social media snap. Like I have people who are like, oh, you didn't even post that. This is not real, this is my life. Like this is my real life. And so, I try to network in that way, where in those spaces, I'm not just asking for something, but I have something to offer. So whether it's, supporting the teachers or, the Alzheimer's Association or, whatever, it's like, I'm here willingly giving. And if y'all don't give me nothing back, I'm good with that, right? Like I didn't come with the intention of, everybody's about to sell their house again. People, I understand that people know other agents, they have relationship with agents, and I respect that boundary. And so I just, I build those networks organically.
Yes.
And I leave, the rest to, take its course.
And that's important, I think, for people to hear. I'm also a homebody. I love being at home by myself. But we go out because we're looking for the people. It's just natural. And by doing that, they can tell your heart and why you're different. Yes. Can you also tell us about how do you stay informed about what's going on in the market, and how do you apply strategies to your business according to what's going on with the market?
So I tend to connect with people who I respect in the industry that are doing things. So they may not be people that I actually know. So if I know a lender who has helped me, has transformed my clients, and has a voice locally, then I tend to sort of gravitate to them and sort of ask my questions there. I do set aside time to get caught up because I don't want to, our industry is constantly changing, and so I don't want to be in a place where somebody asks me a question and I'd be like, oh, I don't know, not that I know everything, but I try to connect with people who do know, and stay active with, my local association. And I know some really smart people in the business, so I try to, gravitate to them and, go to them for my questions, but also realizing that, I have a role to play in my education and growth professionally. And so when it comes to just sort of the overall development of it all, I do make a huge investment in myself. I do have a business coach who helps me plan and strategize sort of what things look like for me on an annual basis, and we connect weekly, and I get information from there also.
And I heard you're talking about how you really want to be able to help our community. What segments of the real estate market you think are currently being underserved?
Our baby boomers and seniors, people forget about them. And I started just about 15 months ago, I started doing work that caters to them, and it is so epic because it's almost as if no one is making the connection. They can't get online. You can't send them a DocuSign. Right. You gotta go to her house. Right. Don't pass her an iPad. Right. She can't coordinate moving out of her house online. She don't have an email. And so that whole community, I just feel like is being lost. I feel like we pay a lot of attention to the first-time home buyers, and I respect them. I appreciate them, and they are to my business. But when it comes to our seniors, we are really losing sight of their needs and how we can service them. And it's not, and it takes a lot of patience because of the fact that we're in a fast-moving industry. I think that sometimes we just sign. And it might be a whole 6 weeks before she even comprehend what you said week one. Because the last time he or she bought a house was, 61 years ago. And so they didn't have all these documents, and they didn't have, all of this, and I didn't have to understand the buyer-broker agreement and commissions and all of that stuff. And so that community is just sort of near and dear to me, and I always am surprised at how they are oftentimes ignored and taken advantage of. They have to be protected as well. because, you know, people come fast talking. I get people who, I used to do something called senior document review where people would call me and I'm like, call me before you sign something.
Yes.
You don't have to work with me. Just call me before you sign something. They call me like, this man came to the door, it was 2 of them, and they said that they give me this, and then I looked at the paper and it said that. Come on, like, but everybody does not have, you know, people in their lives who will help them in that way, and so that community, I just feel, needs to be protected and protected.
That's awesome. Tap it up for that. That's awesome. Okay, let's talk about some marketing, okay? I remember when I first became a realtor, I went to some seminar, and they said to all the ones, you guys are not realtors, you're marketers, and you must understand how to market yourself. So how have you established your personal branding, and how has that been success in your as a 7-figure realtor?
So I think that coming into the business, I was old school, you know, mailers, and I still do mailers. I still send out over 5,000 pieces a month to a neighborhood that I farmed for years, and now my current neighborhood where I live. What I find that does is it validates what I'm doing in a way that people can experience without me intruding on them, right? So I send my mailers, and people may say at the grocery store, oh, we get your stuff in the mail. Or people may not need my services immediately, but I have gone to listing appointments where I've sent these flyers, and they will have a stack of stuff that I sent over the years. And I had a mentor who's now deceased who said that if you're going to start mailing stuff, keep mailing stuff. Don't send no one-offs. Don't send no something just because you closed the deal. If you're going to start it, finish it. So mailings have been a big part of my business. Social media, of course, plays a huge role. I feel like social media has its place in that it reaches certain demographics. I feel like that there are a variety of people that are obviously on social media, and they see you in those spaces, so you want to be consistent with that. You want to, for me, my branding is really important in that I don't want you to pass judgment on me based on my post, right? I can't control everybody, but my image is really important to me. And so, and it's my real life, you know what I mean? And it's stuff I ain't gonna show you, because we ain't cool like that. So you ain't gonna know everything I'm doing, you know? You're gonna know the stuff that's relative to us building the kind of relationship that I wanna build. But I feel like social media is huge. If you can do it right, I feel like it has a big place. And then, you know, I do my email marketing as well, as a piece. And then I do a lot of sponsorships for causes that I support. So in the event that, you know, there is a local something going on and they're doing it, then I support them financially in that way. And I feel like, you know, there's the emphasis on the 7 figures, but the reality is, it is spent. You know what I mean? It's like, every dollar has a place. It's a little more than it was a couple years ago, but every dollar has its place. I mean, I'm paying people now that I'm like, why I gotta pay a whole attorney every month? Like, what is that about? You know what I mean? And, you know, there are people on the payroll now that wasn't on the payroll before. And so, yeah, so that's it.
Okay, so all your different campaigns you do, whether it's emailing, the farming, social media, which one attracts clients the most, do you think, to you?
The farm. My mailers, hands down my mailers. Because when I send out my monthly mailers, what I'm sending out is a market update of their local area. And it's old school, right? It's like, these houses sold in your neighborhood this month. These are pending, these are, active. And that's it. Right? Like it's just, that's it. And that's almost what like people want to know. As a relate, people don't care. I mean, I can't say that they don't care, but I care more about the houses that are selling in my neighborhood than the houses that are selling in your neighborhood for obvious reasons, right? And so that mailing campaign piece, and then I do another piece that's really successful that somebody shared with me a couple of years ago. I send out an I have a buyer letter. They go crazy over that letter. Yeah. I have a buyer. I have a buyer who wants to live in, Chabot Park Estates. They call, you do? How much am I going to spend? I wasn't thinking about selling, but I might if the money is right. You know what I mean? So I send out I have a buyer quarterly, and then I send out my regular marketing updates once a month.
Awesome. Thank you for that tip. At what point did you realize that, okay, now I need to scale my business? And how did you make that transition?
So one thing that I didn't mention was that I sell real estate full-time now, but I've been licensed for 18 going on 19 years. For 16 of those years, I had a day job.
Wow.
So I worked for the University of California that I mentioned. I worked for Kaiser, and I worked for the city of Oakland. Well, I was working at those places selling real estate also. And I remember, every job I worked, I was making more money than all my bosses because I was selling real estate. I was doing it at lunch. I was doing it on the weekends. I was showing houses in the morning if I could, like whatever my schedule would allow. And in that space, I was never promoting myself as the Kaiser employee. I didn't care about Kaiser. I was a realtor. Like my daughter's friends would get in the back of my car and I would be like, I'm a realtor. They'd be like, what is your mama talking about? I was like, don't tell your mama that Danger's mama is a realtor, okay? And so that was like my reality. I hustled to the point of people couldn't comprehend it. You know what I mean? Like people they'd be like, you gotta work. What you mean you can't go on Saturday? What you mean you can't go on Friday? Because I'm like, I got bills to pay. I got stuff to do. I got stuff I want to do. And I sell real estate. That's when I had like really sort of found my niche. And so it was October 2021 that I left my day job. It was October 2021 where I left my day job and said, my boss at Kaiser, who's a really good friend of mine, I had sold everybody in my department a house. Everybody. I was like, what you mean you don't own no house? We're about to change this. I'm like, I'm selling my boss's mother house, everybody's house. And my boss at Kaiser, she comes to me and she says, what's she gonna do? Like, cause I'm like, Kaiser in a way. You know what I mean? I got a job house, I got it. She was like, girl, you don't even see what's going on right now. And I was at Kaiser out of fear. Because guess what? They got benefits.
Yeah.
Right? And then my coach was like, okay, let's look at the cost of benefits. You could pay this all day. Like you could cover this cost of benefits. What else is keeping you at Kaiser? It wasn't much, right? It wasn't much. And so from there, I realized, okay, I can make this move. And my confidence in my abilities as a realtor heightened because I'm like, my coach was like, look at what you've done.
Yes.
Look at what you've done. You sold over 600 houses at that stage. Look at what you've done. You think you can't leave your job to go full time? I didn't know. I was on autopilot. I didn't even think about it. I was just like, I know I go to Kaiser, I make the money with them. I don't even, my coworker one day, she said, we got paid yesterday. And I spent my whole check. And I was like, we got paid yesterday? Because I wasn't even relying on it. You know what I mean? And so I knew I needed to scale my business when I left my job. Because when you leave your job, you work differently.
Yes.
Meaning, I don't have Kaiser to rely on. I'm not getting that check every 2 weeks. I can't take your call if it's not within the time in which I take calls. And so my hustle, it heightened. It heightened. It's like, okay, I went from, 26 houses to 41 houses to 66 houses. And it was like, I'm hustling, but I'm doing it all by myself. I have just a TC. And I'm driving her nuts. She's just like, girl, like, you need help, I need help. It's like I'm getting home late, I'm eating in the car, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna kill myself. And my godmother was like, okay, you gonna fool around and have a stroke. I was like, whoa, this got real. And so from there, I was like, okay, let me figure out what I need, and then get people in place. I don't have, per se, a team, because when I was at Kaiser, I managed 300 people, and I'm over it. I'm over it. I don't, like, managing people, you have to want to do that. I'm over it. I'm a broker. I ain't opening no brokerage. I'm over it. So for my team, it's like, okay, I need buyer's agents. I don't want to manage them. Like, I don't want to do. So I use other people buyer's agents, and we just coordinate what the numbers look like. So I know I need a TC, so I have her. I can't do without her. I have a virtual assistant, can't do it without her, and then I have the ground assistant. So someone who does the lock boxes and makes sure the stations are in place and all of that stuff. And that's the extent of my scale. I feel like my value is held within talking to my clients. My clients aren't talking to anybody but me. They're not talking to anybody but me. Like my assistant will call and do the initial intake form so that we can have it in the system. But if they have questions, they talk to me. So that's the best use of my time. It's not showing houses. It's not, I don't see the house until they want to write. So I don't write on stuff that I don't see. But I don't show 7 houses. I have a buyer's agent in place who she'll show the houses. I pay her per showing, all of that. And when I do the math and look at the numbers, for me, it makes sense, right? It makes sense for just sort of the extent of my business. But that's when I knew that I needed help. And I felt like I wasn't able to live my life. You know what I mean? I was seeing money in the bank. Oh, no, I wasn't. Let me take that back. I was paying the IRS on time. It was like I was paying the IRS on time, and then eventually no longer paying the IRS, but not able to experience, just sort of the fruits of my labor. Like, I should do some stuff. I should travel. I should do a little more. And so that's when I decided to work with it.
You said something, so I'm going to ask you a question. How does the role of mindset play in your success? When you're talking about, like, here you're making all the money in real estate, but you still held on to Kaiser. Somebody had to say to you, stop. Look at everything that you've done. How does your mindset can play in all of that? Having that positive mindset.
So going back so one of the things that I recognize is that I don't have all the answers, but I do seek out people who do. And I realized because of that position that I was in, something wasn't right in terms of how I was making the connection with what I was actually doing versus what I was actually thinking. And so I had to literally get a therapy, right? So I had to literally get a therapist to be like, girl, you're not looking at this right. Like you good. And I'm like, am I? Like, I don't feel good. I feel like I need to prove more, do more, say more, all the things. And then when I made that connection, the sky, it was like, clear the way, because you're not ready for me now. Because now I understand how I show up. Not only do I know real estate, I'm good at it. Like, I'm good at it. And I change lives. And my clients are appreciative. And I build relationships that are, that last forever. Like my clients, I'm friends with my clients, and I can't say that that's the case. The person who sold me my house, my very first house that I bought when I was 26, I don't even know where she at. I remember her first name, not so much her last name, and I don't want to be that agent, right? I don't want, because it's such a transformative process. You know what I mean? It's such a big process. And so for me, mindset was everything. And even now, it's almost, I wake up in the morning and it's almost like I am about to experience like a heavyweight fight. it's the music, it's the, you know, the chanting, it's the affirmations, it's the, you know, meditation, it's the quiet time, it's the, you know, all of the things, it's the reading, it's the Bible, it's the prayer, it's all of those things to just keep me there, because there's so much going on around us that we can get really distracted and lose sight of how we're going to stay grounded in a very non-forgiving space. Because real estate is like, have you ever sold somebody a house who resold their house for somebody else? How dare you? How dare you? So it's a really non-forgiving space, and so you have to be very intentional about it, but also you have to protect your heart and mind and build your stamina around working in it, because we're the only industry where it's like no one's coming to cheer you on. Right? Like ain't nobody calling you every morning like, go Rhea, you got this, you got the fans and UML and all of this and your associations and your clients, and you get it, Rhea. You don't get that call every morning. You know what I mean? You're lucky if you got a squad that'll give it to you once a week or once a month, but for the most part, all the things that are going on around me, I take responsibility for how Felicia shows up. I'm not relying on someone else to do that.
You have like daily routine that you go through, whether it's the music, the reading,
I have a prayer partner at 5 in the morning. My girl is one of my best friends is in Dallas. We pray every morning. But that don't even be about real estate. That'd be about the kids and, you know, all the other stuff going on. And then, you know, I do what, I mean, it's not super, you know, epic. You know what I mean? It's like I get up, I pray, I meditate. I might write in my journal some mornings, I don't. I'm a big reader, so I'm reading something almost every day. I'm a big audible person. I do that. And you know, like I said, I love Jesus and I curse a little, so sometimes it's DX and sometimes it's Kirk Franklin. It's just sort of thing. On, you know where I am in that space.
So what advice would you give to somebody that's aiming for that 7-figure income? What kind of advice would you give?
So I would say prepare for it in a way that you are being honest with yourself. There were areas where no one told me I was slipping or dropping the ball or my game wasn't tight, but I knew. And so there were areas where it's like, okay, do I need to improve my process? Do I understand the forms? Do I understand the tools that are available to me and the resources that are available to my clients? Can I serve anybody who comes to me with a real estate question? Or is there something I would have to try to wing or pass on to somebody else? And so I felt like I needed to become one with my industry in a way that I hadn't before, right? So I had to master the craft, right? We're not surgeons, we're not people's, physical lives aren't in our hands. But we should be the best at what we do. If I had to do a listing presentation right now, I would say that I can compete against anybody. But that's only because I have done countless listing presentations that weren't in front of a client, where I did role play with folks and, talked through my issues and got the cotton out of my mouth. And if somebody came to me with any kind of objection, could I answer that question, or could I combat that or respond to them in a way where I would get their business? So preparation is critical. The other piece that's really important is just who you're surrounding yourself with. If you are with the realtor who's like, woe is me, I would never call him again. Because I don't, it's enough of that in the world. You know what I mean? It's like my aunt, look, I ain't gonna say her name. My aunt called me back once a week. She'd be like, oh yeah, my back, my neck, my this. I'd be like, so you have to make sure that your circle, that people, when I say I want to make $1 million, if people are snickering, they're not my people. Right? Yeah. They're not my people. Right? But if I say I want to make $1 million and people are like, yeah, how are we going to do it? What you want to do? Let's do this. Come on, let's do it. Those are my people. Right? Yes. So just being mindful of making sure you're prepared. Because I don't feel like God is going to give you anything you're not prepared for. And I feel like in the midst of that, if I want things to show up for me in a way, I have to do my part.
Yes.
Right? I have to do my part. And so the preparation is key, understanding your craft is key. And also setting aside the time to do so, because it takes work. It's hard to deal with everything that's going on and build your business and deal with the clients, because the clients can be very time consuming. And so it's very hard I'm big on time blocking. How I spend my day most days is, it's like there are certain things I can't do in certain hours because I'm on the phone at this time, or I talk to my clients in the morning, or I wrap up my clients on Fridays or whatever. And I don't really pivot from that, because I found with that structure, with that discipline, it really gives me freedom where I'm not all over the place. I don't take calls late at night. I just don't. I don't take calls late at night, because when I did, it didn't give me the kind of rest and peace that I needed, or it kept me up, or I needed to do something else, and it interfered with just sort of all the things. Yes. And so I really try to build a boundary around what that looks like for me. And so when I'm doing I do a consultation for both my buyers and my sellers. So when I'm talking to them, I'm saying to them, my hours are between, what's the best time for you, right? I start as early as 7. What's the best time for you? But after 7 o'clock, if you call me after 7, just know I'll call you back next, right? And you just set the expectation. It's not, I'm not scared that they're going to go work with another realtor. We just dialogue, right? Like I set the expectation around what this looks like for us. Because I have a family, and I want to, I like to eat dinner with my family at the end of the day, just sort of debrief and walk my dog and all this stuff without I can always tell when somebody goes with me. Let's go up to the loan officer. We have to sort of reclaim our life in that way. Because this industry does not reward us in a way that is lasting. Right, so we get money from it, but at the end of the day, if you stop being a realtor, guess what? Your realtor friend will be like, girl, what you doing with your clients? They're gonna be like, oh yeah, they're like, girl, what you doing with your clients? So anyway, that's
awesome. What are some common mistakes you see agents making, and how can they avoid them in all your experience?
I think some common mistakes I see agents make is not vetting the client. And so you can't just call me asking me to show you a house, right? I'm not doing that. So who's your lender? Are you approved? Send me proof of funds. Are you talking to somebody else? Like all of the things. When was the last time you looked at a house? Oh, I looked at a house on Saturday, on Tuesday. But that wasn't an open house. So who are you working with? You know what I mean? All of those things. And I feel like when you can do that, then you're sort of commanding the respect of them, and they realize that you're not like everybody else. Because everybody else will drop. They leave their baby with the neighbor and they'll show a house. Like, no, I'm not doing that. So vetting the client is really important, and even the listings. How motivated are you to sell? If I could get a sign in front of this house in 2 weeks, would you be ready to go? Like, oh no, I was just asking. Okay, good, I know that. You know what I mean? I'll nourish you in another way. So I feel like that's one of the things and then not treating this like a business. This is a business. Yes. You need a business plan. You need a business strategy. You need to know what your business looks like going forward. Like, I know my numbers for 2025 now. I've been working on them all October. I know what I want things to look like for 2025 now. I'm not going to wait until January 1st to figure that out. Right? And so what does my business plan look like? What is my business model? Like, when my thing is, when people who encounter me think about real estate, I want them to think about me. Yes. Right? That's what I want. So I am intentional in, walking in that space. And I feel like sometimes real estate is almost looked at like used car salesman. You know what I mean? People don't respect them. And that's how they use, I'm a realtor. Okay. That's good, but what are you doing? Right? And that's sort of how people look. But as soon as as soon as you have fruits of your labor, then everybody wants to sort of be a part. And then I think the other thing is being really humble in this space, because sometimes, have you ever been on the phone with a listing agent who's just disrespectful? And you just be like, man, you got that little pump listing and now you think that right till I get myself, right? But just not realizing that it's only God's grace that you have the client, the listing, the business. So don't feel like it's, something that you've done and that it can't be taken away from you, because it can. I've seen people who were big in the business who just, plummeted in a way. And so just staying humble in the process, I feel like has been my saving grace. Saving grace. Because it's like you get a check for $36,000, you'd be like, yeah, right? But it's like, yeah, I'm good, I'm good. But, I might do that at home in the mirror. It's like just staying humble in the process.
Awesome. How do you see the real estate industry evolving in the next few years? And how can we get ready for that?
So I feel like if you're not a skilled agent, you are going to be left behind. I feel like if your skills aren't tight, then you are going to wake up one day looking for a job. Because it's going to be the difference of, so when the whole thing around NAR, the commission thing changed, you've seen a lot of agents fall off. Well, for us, I've always had to tell you my worth.
Yes.
And have proof in the pudding to show you. So I can have that conversation. So it didn't take the settlement to pivot my business in any way. But if you don't have the skills to talk your client through the financing and what it looks like, and connecting with them with the right person, or being able to prep a property in a way, like I should walk into your listing and it's thing and it need paint and it need, like there are resources for that now, right? Like there are tons of resources to sort of combat that. So I feel like the agents that are most skilled are going to be the ones to survive. I feel like the ones who are the fly-by-nights and winging it and can dance real good on Instagram, I feel like they're going to be the ones that left behind.
Okay, as we start to wrap up, I would love to hear what's one of your future goals, personally and professionally.
So, professionally, my goal is to just increase my price point. I've been blessed to, go the gamut. I mean, I used to do REOs and, those houses was buy one, get one free. And, and now, it's like I've gotten to, the $1 million price point, and I appreciate that. And what I noticed is that what it takes for me to sell an REO, it takes for me to sell a $3 million listing.
Yes.
And so I like the $3 million. And so that's my goal. My goal is just to increase my price point, to get into places and spaces with people who have the houses that I want to sell. That's my professional goal. Personally, I'm in the process of writing a book called Parents Who Pray for Their Adult Children. Because I have an adult child who causes me to pray. And so, personally, that's my goal, is to get the book finished and to get it into spaces so we can stop going off on these wrong people. Let God deal with it.
Awesome. Now, I have no idea what time it is. We have time for questions.
Yeah.
How much time do we have?
We have time for questions.
Okay. If you have any questions, you can go to the microphone in the back. You can ask Ms. Duncan some questions. And you guys got to hear now, okay? Ask away.
Okay, good morning. It's just amazing to have you here. I am grateful that you see your humble spirit, and I just appreciate that so much. And I have a lot of questions, but y'all let me know, cut me off. First of all, how did you find your business coach?
It's so funny because I'm a Gemini.
Me too.
And that means something in some ways. Like, I change a lot. I change things a lot. Like, if something ain't serving me, I'm on to the next. And so I've had a lot of business coaches over the years. And so I initially started through I would do Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry, all of those things. And Vanda Martin is an amazing business coach who really sort of set me straight. And then I got this independent woman whom she and I just connected, and we connected because she didn't BS me and she called me out on my stuff. Everybody else was dancing around me and well, that's okay if you don't want to make your calls. And she was like, look, if you don't make your calls, you ain't gonna make no money. You decide, call me back. I'll be like, man, you can talk to me like that. And I'll get called back okay, what do I have to do? What did you say? So that's how I found my coach.
And I asked you in private if you could share that information. What messages or what message are you communicating to your sphere surrounding the recent changes? I know that while we talked a little bit about those agents who are prepared, but how are you communicating that message? And I know it's going to be a message of value. So how are you communicating that on a daily or on paper, you do mailers and things to your buyers and sellers, to your sphere?
When you say changes, what do you mean? Are you talking
The changes in the industry about how they need to have, how buyers are now responsible for paying their agents.
I just wanted to be clear.
Yes.
So to my listing clients, I am saying, okay, in full transparency, the majority of my business is on the listing side.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversation with the buyers for me is minimal. But on the listing side, what I'm saying to my clients is, you don't want to, the changes are too new for you to offer nothing. And we don't want your house to sit here all because of the normalcy of what has happened in the industry affecting your house because you're not offering compensation, right? So you can decide. So I say to them, you don't have to offer anything and we'll revisit this in 2 weeks, or you can offer something and then we can sell your house in 2 weeks, right? That's the conversation there. With my buyers, it depends on sort of where they are, because if the reality is all you have is your 3% or your 3.5% and your then the reality is, are you prepared to go to the next level and compensate me? And if they're not, then I have to make a decision about what that means for me, right? And so it may not mean 2.5%. It may just mean 0.5%, because you're my cousin and I want you to buy a house. But at the same time, I can't work for free, so you understand that. And so it just sort of means that, unfortunately, in this community, meaning the African American community, which is the majority of my clients, my clients don't have the resources to pay me and pay, whoever else. You know what I mean? So I haven't had a lot of experience with, because this is just August, so I haven't had a lot of experience with my buyers not being able to pay. Fortunately, we've been writing on stuff where the listing agent has offered a commission, but as part of my consultation, I let my clients know of the changes and what that means number-wise as it relates to working with me. And either they have to decide if I can do that or not. But the reality is, I won't work for free. I will work for something, and I feel like you have to put some skin in the game to take ownership. Because if you, and we've experienced it, when buyers don't put anything towards the transaction, they treat you any kind of way and work with 3 of you and 2 of you, and they got a whole bunch of agents looking for them. And so I had that conversation.
Very good, thank you. Can I ask one more question? Okay. What business tool that you currently use has been the biggest game changer or made the most impact on your business? Whether it's CRM or...
I'm the wrong person for that, primarily because systems-wise, my best resource has been a virtual assistant.
Okay. Does that virtual assistant use Asana, or do you know?
She uses Asana. She uses Asana, and we use follow-up calls.
I use both of those.
Yeah, we use Asana and we use follow-up calls. Yeah. And so I rely on her to teach me what I need to know to help her do what she needs to do.
Anybody else? Question?
Yeah, I'm not in real estate. But a lot of things that Felicia was talking about actually kind of plays a big part of my life. and things that I've been evaluating. I do a lot of community work, you know, in the community for like over 40 years, but the change, like in the parents, right? The parents in sports is like way different than what it used to be when I first got into it. And so I appreciate what you said, like reclaim your life, right? So I've been in the process of reclaiming my life and not just pouring my whole life into a community that I don't know really respects it. You know what I mean? Parents years ago respected what people like myself did in the community. Now it's just like a whole lot of disrespect. Like we're just supposed to like volunteer all of our time and do what we do for your kids, and yeah, we just gonna love all over you anyway. And so I respect that. Something else you said kind of triggered me a little bit too. Understand your value. I think in my life, I've never really understood my value because I've always given out everything and really didn't understand my worth and what I was really giving to everybody, right? So now I'm in a space of trying to understand my value, right? So as I'm rolling out a new program, I would literally like do it almost for free, right? But I was like, why am I spending like valuable time doing a valuable, critical part of my life for people, again, parents that don't really respect it? So this is the price tag I'm gonna put on it, and either they're gonna participate or they're not, but I'm gonna put this price tag on it and not keep saying, well, I don't think they can afford it, I don't think it's right for the kids. I gotta start making it right for myself. All right?
Thank you.
So thank you for validating what I've been kind of like teeter-tottering with and just trying to, you know, get myself together.
And I feel like, you know, in terms of the value you have to offer, oftentimes we can discount ourselves in a way that, one, is not necessary because we do, you know, provide value, but also it's out of fear of how the other people are going to respond. And if you haven't read this book called Boundaries, I highly recommend it. But the reality is, I'm not responsible for what you think about me coming in asking you for 3.5%. That's for you to unpack, right? And so from there, I trust the process, right? I trust the process that if this is for me, then it's for me. I remember walking into a listing asking for what I felt like I was worth and did not get selected. I know the agent who got selected, and it was a listing from him. And I watched it, and she was like, and we later talked about it after it closed, and she was like, girl, I literally worked for minimum wage or less at the end of the day. And the process, trusting the process, one, if you're doubting yourself, so here's the thing with the other thing on listings. If I walk into a listing and my client says, oh, we talked to another agent who said they give you less. And I'm like, well, do you really want to work with somebody who's discounted their stuff before they even got the business? Like, why would you even, like, because I see the value in my services, I'm not coming to you discounting anything. Like, no, who else? You can't buy Louis Vuitton at a discount.
No.
Right? Like, it's not possible. And as soon as you can overcome the fear of what they're going to say and rest in where you are, then you just trust the process. If it's for you, it's for you.
That's right.
Yes.
I have a question. I don't have a question, I have a comment. I just want to thank Felicia. We've done some work together. What I really want to do, and including in this room, is for us to work together. And I had a listing, and she had this young woman, and it was her first time buying a house. And the couple, the sister brother was selling the house because the mother had passed, and here they are, the daughter, the sister has lived in the house for a long time. And now the brother says, yes, I'm ready to sell it. And so we were on the market 20 days. Felicia's buyer shows up, visits the house. She says, do you have any buyers? I said, not yet. You should write on it. You really should write on it. And so then Felicia calls me. And that's the relationship you want with your other agents out there, your brokers. You want a relationship. And Felicia was so sweet about talking to me about her client and how her client, I've seen your client like 3 or 4 times picking up mail still from that house. But at any event, the lady has transformed the house. Because I've seen it, she showed it to me. And so you had one of the best clients, buyers in that area that I work with. And I sold 3 houses in that area in like 4 weeks. So thank you for that.
Amen. Awesome.
So what she didn't include is that she was amazing also on the other side, which makes the difference. Because we know how difficult this can be, trying to build your credibility on the other side. And I'm old school in real estate, so I do pick up the phone, and I may be scared to be like, girl, my client ain't got a dollar. They need $10,000 credit, right? But respectfully, realizing that she has a job to do also, and you never know how your paths are gonna cross. Yes. Now, what if I would have been mean and nasty to her in that transaction and walked in this room, she would have been like,
Ms. Selena? Hi, Felicia.
I love you. I love you.
One of the things, first of all, your self-worth, it shines through. I love that, your presence and how you feel about yourself. And that's so important when you show up for your buyers, for your listings, for your child, for your dog. It comes out in everything that you do. So I just want to acknowledge that you have some non-negotiables. And I think every successful agent has the non-negotiables. Time blocking. I heard you say time block. You spend 6 hours a day, meaning you're prospecting and making the calls. But my question for you is this. You said, I let my VA rely on the systems. But we know as business owners, specifically in real estate, there's still, the business of real estate has multiple businesses in it. We're doing marketing. We're making calls. We're, looking at ways that we can support our buyers. So how do you manage your systems? Just give me 1 or 2 inside of a business that requires so many moving parts. How do you take control of that in your day?
So before my VA and my assistant even came on the scene, I was her. So I wrote, I don't write contracts now, right? But I used to, and I would write them in the car, and I would write them wherever, and I would, do all the things. So I felt like in order to pass this off, I need to understand what it takes to run my business. So I don't want you to tell me how to run my business, because if you leave tomorrow, right, I'm in a whole other situation that I have to figure out myself. So before I was even able to hand off the responsibilities, I began to look at the value associated with the things that I was doing, and if I really needed to do those things. Initially, I felt like I needed to do everything. I needed to, back in the day, print out the documents and do all of this and count make sure where's page 16 and all of those things. I felt like I needed to do all of that. But when I began to give the responsibility to someone else, I couldn't help but not micromanage the process. So my VA and my assistant, the way they work now is not how they worked a year and a half ago, because I couldn't let go of the process, right? And so what I do, though, on a regular basis to make sure I'm constantly understanding what's going on is we check in. I check in with my team every morning before I start my day, right? So where are we? What's going on? What's not working? What's working? And then from there, I entrust them to carry out what they need to carry out. And then if there's a glitch, we just sort of figure out what happened. But I found that the more I hold on to, the less I can get. And so I have to let go and let them do, what they do. And they're really, really good. I had to let go of that. But I have to constantly ask, sometimes we'll be in the group chat and they'll mention something. I'll be like, what's that? And then on the next morning, I'm like, okay, so tell me what was and what was that? And, that's this. And that's, so I understand my business and what's going on. I am not relying on them. If my VA quit tomorrow, my business would not unravel. Right? It would not unravel. And I am a communicator, and I'm also very visual. So you can't just really, tell me stuff, you like show me. So, okay, so where did you do that in Asana at, and where do I find my task, and how do I send my task to you, and why is that still green, and why is that one red, and why is that, you know what I mean? And to the point in which I'm understanding it, and then once I'm understanding, the expectation is that you're doing your part until you're not. If you're not doing your part, then it's then I show up differently around like, okay, well, what happened, right? But for the most part, I do have to have that communication and check-in for my own sanity, but just also for my own comprehension.
So I have a second follow-up question. So many of you may know that, or may not know that you work with the great lady, Georgia Richardson. So I know that she mentored you, if I'm correct. So it sounds like that you're good with, you know how to work in your business if you need to, but you spend time working on your business. For those who are in that sweet spot where they're trying to elevate their business to the next level, they've got the consistency down. They understand that they need to wake up every morning, shut everybody out, and have time to prospect. Sometimes, however, newer agents or people who are reestablishing their business, they're sort of lost. Like, what do I do first? Do I call Inspire? Do I call Facebook? Do I get Open 7? Some people don't know when they're trying to establish their business and they're good, how to sort of get that ball rolling again. What would you suggest?
So I would say to that point, where do you start? I tried everything. Now remember, this is 19 years right now, right? Like 19, I knocked on people's doors. I was like, what was I thinking? Like, I'm scared of dogs. What am I doing? I knocked on doors, I called strangers, I did all the things, had Vulcan 7, had this, had that, did all the things until I realized what worked for me. And just because it's working for somebody else doesn't mean it's your thing. Yes. I am people oriented. I like people. I connect with people. And so calling somebody on the phone like, I'm a musician, that's not my thing, right? Like, I've seen it work for people, other people, and transform their lives. And I dabble in it in that my assistant is a cold caller, right? So she will cold calls. I spend my day calling people I know, right? So I had to figure out what works for me. If you told me I had to cold call within my calling hours, I would probably cry the whole time because I tried it and I recognized what didn't work for me. I think you have to be really clear. Self-awareness is so critical for every area of your life. And when something isn't serving me, I pay attention to it, right? Not that you can't do hard stuff, because you do have to go through the hard stuff. It's hard calling people all day and, I'll be looking out the window and then I'll be like, oh, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to run to Target and I want to, do all the things. But doing the hard stuff versus the stuff that doesn't sit well with you, you have to be in tune with you in order to make a decision on what that is. Like, I don't have to be in every circle of, people and all the things. And to be honest with you, I don't miss it. I did a 40-day social media fast thinking that I was going to miss the world. I didn't miss nothing. Ain't nobody know. They didn't even know I was off. They didn't even know. I was like, I'm thinking, I'm done. Ain't nobody knows. They're like, hey girl, hey. Like, ain't nobody said, where you been? So, it's a matter of just being really aware. And for me, the awareness was, ain't nobody tripping over you like that. Keep doing what you're doing, But having that awareness in terms of what works for you. And I will say that just because other people are doing it doesn't mean that it's your thing. Right? Like, just because other people are doing it, that's their thing. And I'm happy for them, and I want them to succeed and all of that, but I have to sort of stick to my thing.
Thank you for that.
And my thing is people. I love all people. They love me. I know they got tea for me. If it's summer, 90 degrees outside, you like, drink your tea. that's my space, you know what I mean? Connecting with people in a way where I want to be in the room with people, which is the industry that I was brought into, right? Like that's sort of how it was done when I was there. I'm very people oriented, and that's my strong suit.
Well, you're also very authentic, and you know that authenticity really helps us, especially in sales. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for the or President Mia?
No questions, but I just want to thank you for taking the time to come share with us. I met Felicia. Our daughters went to high school and college together, the Dejas, her Deja and my Deja. And I remember I was in mortgage and I was thinking about going into real estate, so I called her. I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about going into real estate. She was like, well, if you don't only made $75,000 or more your first year, you don't need to be there. And that stuck with me, and I came, and I appreciate you so much. And I thank you for taking the time to come and share with our organization.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you as well. What I heard most from you is to be yourself and to be authentic. And I was talking to Felicia over there at the table, and I said, how, did you build this to be, 7 figures? She said, I give all glory to God. And I said, then to me, that's what to be about you the most, is you being authentic to who you are. So thank you for that. Thank you for being here. I want to give you guys, give her a hand. So we can